611 is your local election headquarters. Early voter turnout breaking records in New York City, and we're taking a closer look at the numbers. The Board of Elections says about 735,000 New Yorkers took part in early voting.
That's right. This weekend had the largest voter turnout with more than 103,000 ballots cast just on Saturday, a little more than 151,000 cast on Sunday. So this morning, we are joined by the Executive Director of New York City Votes, NYC Votes, Paul Ryan, to talk more about the historic mayoral election. So, Paul, great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So let's talk about these numbers, right? Unprecedented turnout that we're seeing. Some of these numbers really just almost matching in just early voting what we saw on Election Day 4 years ago. So what do you make of the increased turnout?
Really excited to see so many New Yorkers engaged in this process out there early. Voting early is a little bit new for New Yorkers. It's only been, this is the second mayoral cycle with in-person early voting. So New Yorkers are picking up on it. I love it. I'm happy to see New Yorkers exercising this right and their voice in the ballot box.
Yeah, so based on what we've seen so far with the early voting, what do you expect for tomorrow?
I don't make predictions, but I'm excited to see these record-breaking numbers, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if we saw overall records shattered for a city election tomorrow.
How many of the, I guess when you break it down, if you look at some of the numbers, how many of the early votes are actually first-time voters?
I have not analyzed that data yet. I think it's a little bit early, but the Campaign Finance Board and NYC Votes, we put out a voter analysis report after every election, and we'll be crunching all those numbers in our voter analysis report that will be published early next year.
So what are some of the interesting things that you've seen so far with early voting?
Really, it's just the turnout, seeing the overall enthusiasm in the numbers. You know, the New York City Campaign Finance Board, we administer the public matching funds program, and we've had voter NYC Vote staff out in all 5 boroughs for months now, doing hundreds of events, getting people excited, making sure they're registered, making sure they had a plan to vote, knowing whether they were going to vote early or go on election day, figure out where their polling site was, because sometimes your early polling site differs from your election day site. Voters should make sure they know where they're going tomorrow if they have not yet voted, but excited to see people out there engaged in their democracy.
Yeah, I know you can't analyze the voting data yet, but can you analyze who registered to vote? Were there more people registering to vote this go around than in years past? And the reason I ask that is because Mamdani's campaign is saying, well, we were able to get out people to register to vote. Cuomo's campaign saying we're getting people to register to vote, which is a good thing. So the campaign seems to be saying more people are registering, not necessarily just voting.
Our preliminary analysis and data from the primary election saw a big spike in people voting in the weeks leading up to the voter registration deadline. So I would not all be surprised to see numbers like that going into the general, a big increase in voter registration. We love to see that. New York City has high voter registration already. What we need to do is get people to the polls to actually vote. And I'm seeing that happen in early voting and excited to see it tomorrow.
Well, let's break it down borough by borough. So Brooklyn had the highest number of early votes cast, followed by Manhattan, Queens. Queens had the highest, had the third highest total. So nearly 60,000 ballots were cast in the Bronx and just over 50,000 in Staten Island. So do you expect tomorrow's voter turnout to be the same, or do you think it might switch up a little bit?
Again, hard to predict because early voting is so new. It's hard to tell how many people are new voters entering the election process versus how many would normally vote on election day, but this go round, they're like, hey, I'm going to try out early voting. Hard to predict, but typically the patterns sort of mirror on the election day what we see in early voting in terms of borough by borough voting.
So when you look at those numbers, though, obviously the Bronx and Staten Island are lagging, and your effort is to really get out people to vote. So how do you increase numbers in the Bronx, say?
We actually have priority communities that we focus on, both geographic as well as immigrant voters, voters for whom English is not their first or primary language. We've been focusing our efforts in those communities for the past year. So
did it work?
We'll analyze the data after the election, but we have seen very good results so far. We get great feedback from our engagement with our community partners and voters in these communities.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the excitement that you're seeing out there in the city. When was the last time you've seen the city this fired up about a mayoral election?
Well, the early voting numbers so far were more than 4 times early voting turnout in 2021, the last big mayoral citywide election. So I'm seeing great results so far.
Are you guys in charge of the stickers?
We are not. So we are separate from the Board of Elections.
Yeah.
We do the public matching funds program, and we do voter education. We produce the voter guide
Okay.
sent to every voter, more than 4 million voters in the city. We don't produce the stickers, but I got a Brooklyn sticker this year at Brooklyn Bridge.
Say that people were very happy with the fact that they wanted to get personalized stickers for the borough and the holiday of Halloween. In the voter guide, are you talking about the ballot proposals as well?
Yes, 6 measures on the ballot, and they're all detailed in the voter guide, as well as every candidate running for city office.
I mean, if you haven't voted yet and you are just paying attention because you were living under a rock, how do you get your hands on that?
It's been mailed to every voter.
Okay, good.
It's also available online at nycvotes.org. You can also confirm where your polling place is tomorrow at nycvotes.org. All the info voters need for tomorrow, including the voter guide, nycvotes.org.
All right. Well, great so much. Great. Thanks so much for coming in and laying it all out for us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And just to recap, everybody, polls open tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. in New York. In New Jersey, the polls are open from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m.